What up, what up, what up? Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. It's been a minute, but I am finally here with part 2 of our 3-part series, Early Head Start, Child Development, the Domains, Developmental Milestones, Early Intervention Services, and the Screening Tools to figure it all out.
Life in a world that keeps changing. Think that it's progress you're making. Copy and paste pretty faces all the time. Pictures so perfect we play through. Only cause you set up the angle. Web that you weave got us tangled.
Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. And thank you so very much. Put a lot of passion into this one. And I can tell you guys that just the way I felt preparing the presentation, it took me longer, but that lets me know that I really, really care about what I'm bringing to you and how I present it. So if this does well, like I said, I'm willing to start a totally separate channel just for parenting and developmental tips. So without further ado, today we're here to talk about those 5 critical domains of child development. And according to my screen, you can see the clip ahead of us with the name of this presentation, as well as that this is part 2 of a 3-part series. The first part was on early head start and what it is, what the benefits of it are. If you have not already seen that video, I suggest you do so. I will have it in the link below, as well. I'll put the link in the description below, as well as have it queued to be the next video that you watch at the end of this video. So that was part 1, early head start. This is part 2, the 5 critical domains of the child development. And we are going to start with the foundation, the number 1, numero uno, most important and critical part of development in a whole, social emotional. Why do I say that, right? First of all, we're going to start with this one. Where do you think we learn our social emotional skills from? Being in the womb and coming into the world, where do you see yourself gathering these social and emotional skills from? If you're saying, and hopefully type it in the comments, our parent, you're directly correct. If for some reason the child was adopted or the child is up in an orphanage, regardless of who the person is, that initial person that the child has continuous exposure to is going to have play the most critical part in functioning and developing that child's social emotional skills. I said in the womb because, as I spoke of in the previous video, it truly starts there. What a parent experiences and the emotions she goes through while pregnant, the child is picking up on that. It's getting all those different cortisone and adverse levels in the blood, and it's learning to fluctuate with that mom's mood. So you want to just be mindful that they don't do, and we've heard this before, they don't do what we say as much as they do what we do, but they will eventually say what we say. I'll get there. So social emotional development, by definition, is having the ability to effectively interact with others, as you can see the 2 kiddos doing so preciously here, and self, including what we call self-regulation in the learning arena, what you would call day-to-day life, self-control. If a child has the ability to properly interact with others, can maintain self-control regulation, when things become difficult for them, that child has 10 times more of the ability to conquer the next four domains of development that we are going to cover. But I want to make clear to you, if the child does not obtain a mastery of their social emotional skills, the child will suffer in the areas of learning. You will probably experience more behaviors from the time of infancy on, and you will most likely have some of those developmental impacts in other areas. So it is critical, critical. And we like to say we place the most focus on this domain of development right here, the social emotional. When I want to give you some examples of that, positive social emotional is when the child smiles at you because you've smiled at them, is when the child laughs, is when the child waves hello or goodbye. And lastly, as they get older, which we can kind of see in this demonstration here, they learn how to take turns. If a child lacked in the area of social emotional development, and we had this same scenario we have here, you may see one or the other children push each other. You may see the one child pull the toy away from the other child. You would not see an equal amount of healthy play going on if either child had a deficit in their social emotional skills. So wonderful demonstration there. Moving on to the next one, cognitive development. By definition, the cognitive development is having the ability to learn and solve. So when we look at the screen here, you see where it says learning to count, learning colors, and learning shapes. The biggest thing, not only in learning those concrete things, is learning the coexistence of them. That's when we realize, or that's when the child will realize, oh, two is bigger than one. I get more. And it becomes that much easier for the child to obtain those cognitive skills. Things like reasoning. It's too warm. I don't want it. Taking it out of their mouth when they know it's going to burn, or it's too hot, or maybe the adult failed to cool it off for them. When the child learns to say two or pull up two fingers when we do that whole, how old are you? When the child gets older and can tell you their address, where they live, what color the house is, what they did for the weekend, what's better to do than not. That's cognitive development. Okay. Moving on, we have language development. Some places this is known as speech. Now, if it weren't for social emotional being the absolute foundation, that is truly the brick and mortar of human development. But if we have that as a given and already a totally all-inclusive thing, then I personally would list language development as the next or most critical. So in language development, by definition, it is the ability to understand and use language. The ability to understand and use language. Okay? All right. First words would be like the body parts. Well, first words would be mama, dada, gaga. We know how that goes, right? And then mama gets mad when dada comes first. Yeah, 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 we know. But going forward from that, learning to then say your body parts. We talked to toddlers about the fact that they can learn up to two languages. In some programs, they are teaching two languages. And parents sometimes are taken back by that. My 2-year-old could speak two languages? Yes, but if you talk to someone who is living in America and not born and speaking only American English, they are more than not teaching their children the native language as well as English. So it's the same principle, the same infancy. If that child can learn two languages, then an American child can learn two languages as an infant as well. And they are able to know, and I think this is a small number, up to 250 words at the age of 2. 250 words. We do ages and stages questionnaire, which is the next video, and it just baffles me when I ask parents that question. Do you think your child knows 5 or more words? They'll say yes. Do you think your child knows 10 or more words? Yes. Do you think your child knows 20 or more words? A lot of times they say no. There's a reason for that, okay? Just a second. A 5-year-old with good language and speech development would be able to no longer say foots. They would say feet appropriately if the language has happened. We have what we call parallel talk that's important, explaining to the child what they see and what they're doing. A lot of parents, scratch that statement, many times will make the error of saying, bring that here, leave that alone, get down from there. That's the command of action. But what have you taught? Maybe that you have an emotional problem with what they're doing, but you haven't taken the maximum opportunity in communication and language. Get down from the blue chair, you make it hurt. Leave that hot plate alone because it could burn you. Come back from the front door so that you won't get hurt if it slams shut. Still included the command for action while taking the opportunity to teach and intercede with language. Another thing that I wanted to make critical here before I go back to my previous statement and explain that, there's a productive language and there's a receptive language. It's said different ways, different times, different schoolings. Productive language is what they say, what they can get out to you. In the beginning stages, it's crying. And then it becomes distinctive crying. And then it comes to crying and pointing. And then it goes to pointing, reaching, and Another interjection statement I have to make here. When you respond to the crying, or when you respond to the you're teaching the child that that's the proper way to communicate with you. And then many a times families will say, I don't know what they're wanting, or I just figure it out. A lot of times our figuring it out is wrong. And then we lead to decayed teeth, obesity, and other issues because a lot of times we're quick to pass the bottle, pass the pacifier, instead of going through the trial and error of injecting language and helping the child to identify their needs so that you can meet them. This causes and requires attentiveness. If you are not attentive to your child, you're going to miss the mark in all elements of development. So, figuring out what they say. You interject. What I do in my teachings, and you do your thing, use your words. Use your words. I don't understand you. Use your words. And then as more as you use words, they will use their words. But if you respond to crying and that's their words. How do you want it? Because the teacher's not going to stand If they get lost in the store, no one will stand and you better not be getting them lost in the store, but you get where I'm coming from. If they're at the daycare and something happens to them and the only way they can communicate it to you is then we have a problem, right? Teach them. Receptive language. Productive is what they say. Receptive is what they understand. What did I understand, Mom, to just tell me? Okay. Now let me go back and make this closing before we move on from language and speech. And it's right there on the screen. I've worked in crisis nurseries. Let's just go all the way back. I started babysitting at 10 when I probably wasn't old enough to be home myself. If I've ever heard something way too many times that frustrates me, and it goes against everything we know here, but maybe we don't know. And I've learned more of a patience and understanding for those don't know what they don't know. But listen to me when I tell you this. Your child is not trying to annoy you. I repeat, your child is not trying to annoy you. You are the teacher. They are the student. And if they don't ask, how will they learn? You may or may not be setting up an environment for learning and teaching and talking. But they have to ask questions to learn. So the million questions that you complain to your friends and your family members, and even scold the child for, why did you ask me all these questions? Would you have known 100% of everything you know if you never asked a question? Think about it. And we move on. 1 second. I'm down to one a day, but we press. This is part of my lunch. As soon as I get done, I have a 2:30 webinar on home visiting and domestic violence. All right. Second domain of development. Not second, fourth. Gross motor. Gross motor is your large trunks. Those arms, those legs, and as you can see, I have there even the head. Let me tell you why, just a moment. Gross motor is defined as the ability to effectively maneuver larger trunk muscles. Run, jump, climb, throw, swish. All right? The reason why I put head is because gross motor also includes our 5 senses: smell, see, hear, taste, and touch. All right. Gross motor happens from top to bottom. First, they learn to hold their head up, turn it both ways. Then they learn how to sit up on their own. What happens after that, Mom and Dad? They're walking, they're walking, they're walking, they're walking. It's funny because I tell parents we spend half of their lives telling them to sit down. No, telling them to walk and talk. And we spend the other half of their lives telling them to sit down and hush up. Gross motor. I got any finals here? Okay. With every area of development, if you see something that is totally beyond the milestone and the child has not completed it, which is where the advantage of having that early Head Start person in your life, it warrants at least an evaluation by an early intervention program, okay? For some things, we do a checkbox and we say we'll check back within 90 days. And in that time, we offer the parent different activities and ideas to see if we can't get that child to development. But once you've been around children and you've learned and studied and researched so many years, you can spot it a lot faster. And if you're a new parent or you're just unfamiliar, it's going to be that more difficult. And honestly, the longer you wait for those the services, the worse the situation could become, the more progressive the delay could be, okay? So if there's an issue, specifically in gross motor development, but also in all areas of development, if your child is 2 years old and they're not talking, you need some speech therapy, okay? But again, like I said, we're gonna talk about the ages and stages questionnaire and the early intervention process in part 3, which is the next video. So we're done with gross motor. Last one, fine motor development. What is that? What is that? Look at there, holding mommy's hands. Holding mommy's hand. Do you know that they can do that within seconds? Within seconds of birth. And even with their little toes, mom and dad. So when you're in that hospital and they've cleaned the baby all up and brought them back to you, stick that finger right down there by them little toes and watch them give you a hug. What do we call that? Do we call that a toe curl or a toe hug? It's amazing. All right, fine motor, the ability to effectively use your hands and fingers. Examples of this are going to be the baby who picks up the Cheerio. I've heard about Legos and pennies and going in noses and ears too. Step up your supervision. Holding a Cheerio, a spoon, a crayon, turning a knob, zipping a zipper, putting things into openings, emptying and filling containers. That is your fine motor skills. And you want to present opportunities often. Now, before we end, we talked about 5 domains of development: social emotional, cognitive, language, fine motor, and gross motor. And we have what's called developmental milestones, okay? And this is not done with, separated by age and mastery. One thing I have here, which is my first bullet on the screen for you, false expectations and unwarranted stress. I want you to type in the comments right now. At what age should all babies be walking? So you type that in the comments. And what do most of y'all probably say? 12 months, right? 1 year? Babies walk at 9 months, 10 months. We set the standard by what we think, and we create a lot of missed opportunities because of these false expectations and unwarranted stresses. In our developmental books, a baby has between the ages of 9 months to 15 months, which is 3 months after they turn a year old, to start walking before we think that there needs to be an intervention. So all these parents that are trying to push their baby to walk so fast and walk so fast, settle down. Because half of y'all, and I'm going to say it, will end up just pulling them by their arms, about to pull it out of socket, rushing them, picking them up anyway because you think they walk too slow, or leaving them behind and having the ability for them to get very hurt. So settle down, okay? Sometimes I got to give the message strongly, and I need to do that right here. Because if you start hooping and hollering and pushing them and rushing them and screaming when they fall, it's automatically going to take longer. The best approaches to ensure that the child reaches their developmental milestones is not going to be found in expensive toys. It is not going to be found in expensive toys. Neither will it be found with continuous screen time. 2 tablets until they go dead, the TV, and then mommy's phone. That ain't it. That ain't it at all. They need love. They need attention. They need a safe space to explore. They need opportunities, empty boxes, safe pots and pans, old white boxes to stack and build and drive and push and open and close. They need lots of singing from mom, not YouTube. Sorry, YouTube, but it's the truth. The baby has heard your voice since the womb. You are your child's hero. They can hear 9 hours of a song on the radio, on the TV, on YouTube, whatever. And that's all fine and dandy. But when they hear that song from mom, and mom sings that song to them, they are going to remember it that much faster. And they are going to feel so appreciative and connected to mom. Do you know that reading to your child not only teaches language, reading to your child has been proven to show that the child feels more important, more valued, more of a connection. Parents who read to their children have a better connection to their children than parents who don't. They need to hear the sounds, the expression of emotions, the different sceneries of life. Think about how you feel when you get a book and you read a book and escape that reality of life for a moment. Well, why wouldn't we want to expose our children to the same opportunities? The only thing that child needs more than the concrete nurturing and those social emotional skills, and then that reading time, is outdoor play. Outdoor supervised and engaged play. Go outside with them. Leave the phone inside unless you want to take big pictures or video. And I hate that. I wish we can give every family a camera, because then you're already going to have the phone and more likely to check a text or a message or post it on Facebook and then scroll for 3 minutes. And guess what? You missed your child doing something really awesome and amazing. So check out from everywhere else and check in with your children. Go outside and explore. Oh my gosh, the leaves are crunchy now, Mom. They used to be soft. Why? Ooh, there might be white on the ground instead of green. Why? Mom, it's cold. Why? And the longer you're engaged with them, the longer they're going to explore and learn. But if you don't engage with them, They're going to come over to you and come over to you and come over to you, begging for your engagement. And don't say, if you don't want to play, we're going to go home. My final thoughts. Begin with curiosity. Expand on it. Support it. Engage. And prepare for a successful life with a very smart child. Thank you. Again, the final episode in this 3-part series will be on early intervention and the ages and stages questionnaire, which is our developmental screening tool, one of our developmental screening tools that we use. For more information, I've got my email here on this slide. You can also leave questions down in the comments. And peace. Namaste.
Life in a world that keeps changing. Think that it's progress you're making. Copy and paste pretty faces all the time. Pictures so perfect we play through, only cause you set up the angle. Web that you weave got us tangled, caught in what's before our eyes.